installation video. I'm going to talk you through the installation process. It's actually quite easy. So yeah, let's begin. To install MakuluLinux in live mode, double click the installer on the desktop. It will ask you for a password, which is the same as all the other live passwords. It's the word Makulu. So you type Makulu, Makulu, enter. You'll be presented with the startup of the installation process. Please make sure that throughout the installer that you follow all the instructions on all the menus. I've put text on all the pop-up windows to guide you through the installation, so read those. This is just the introduction to the installer, so you can go ahead and click start installation. Now the first thing it's going to ask you is to select your geographic area. I'm in South Africa, which is obviously in Africa, so I'm going to go ahead and choose Africa, forward, and then my time zone, the closest to me is Johannesburg, so I'm just going to leave it Johannesburg, and click forward. And the next window will ask me my locals. This is the locals for my country. Now I'm not quite sure what all the abbreviations for the different countries are. I know DE is obviously Germany, and so you need to go check what your locals are. Or you should actually know what your country's abbreviation is, and make sure to choose the UTF-8. As you can see, there's a lot of Germany options here. So if you're German, choose DE80 UTF-8. So yeah, whatever country you choose, make sure that you choose the UTF-8. If you're not sure, maybe go online and just do a Google search for your locals and see what locals to select for your country. For example, mine's Zuid-Afrika, South Africa, so I select ENZA UTF-8. I tick that, forward, and here in the list I just make sure that it's highlighted and I click forward. So now my locals are configured, and next you'll be asked to configure your keyboard. Now if you have a specific keyboard, you can choose it in the list. There's quite an extensive list. If you just have a standard keyboard, then you can choose the 104 105 key International PC Standard, which is the one I've got, so I'm just going to tick that. Next it's going to ask you your keyboard layout. Of course mine's English, so I'm just going to leave it as US English. Next it's going to ask you key for function as Alt-GR. Okay, I'm just going to leave that default. Compose key, I'm not going to select compose key. Use Control Alt backspace to terminate X server. That could be handy, so I'm going to leave that ticked. Next. Now my keyboard's configured, my locals are configured, my time zone's configured, and my geographic area is configured. So that was sort of a pre-install script that just configures all of those things for you, because those can be quite a bitch to configure later on. So I just thought I'd make it easy for the users. Now the actual installation starts. Now if you read on top, it says only tick the options you want for installation, leave the rest unticked. The most common options are 1. Change username, and 13. Change host name. If you don't understand, we recommend you watch the user guides on the desktop. Now the user guides, if you click on the user guides icon on the desktop, it actually takes you to our frequently asked questions section on the forum, on the website, and that's actually full of useful information. But in this case we're going to go ahead and tick 1 and 13, which is change username and change host name. Now those are the two options you'll need. Especially new users, don't worry about the rest. Advanced users, most of these menus you should know, because you are advanced users, so you should know how to use them. I just want to point out that if you want to use a separate swap partition, doesn't matter if it's existing new one or if you create a new swap partition, if you want to use a separate, if you want to make use of a swap partition as such, you do need to tick number 4. Otherwise no swap partition will be used, and instead a local cached swap file will be created, which is the way we're going to install now, because that's actually the better way in my opinion. But if you want to use a separate swap partition, you need to tick number 4. But for our purposes we're just going to tick 1 and 13. Right. Next Next, you're going to present it with your partition options and so forth. You have the option to run gparted, which is a partition manager, or to skip it. Now, if you're an advanced user and you've already got your partition set up and you can skip this step. If you need to set it up, you run gparted. In our case, we're going to run gparted. It will pop up the partition manager. Let me just blank this partition. Okay, I'm just going to remove that partition. Okay, so basically what you're going to do now is, this is probably most likely the screen that you'll see. You're going to go to device and set up a partition table. Before you can create a partition, you always need to set up a partition table. I know that Windows does this automatically, and in Linux it's an extra step, but it's not a big step. You just click on device on the top and create partition table, and you click OK. If you're unsure if it's been done or not, you can do it anyway. It won't hurt your partition, your existing partition. So just go create the partition table device, create partition table. Once that's done, you can right click on the partition. You can see the block here in the middle, that's your partitions. If you've got more than one, it will actually show the different ones. So you right click and you go new, and here you can use the slider to set the size of the partition, and you can actually see the size change. In our case, we're going to use the whole of the partition. The file system needed over here, if you look at the file system, Linux works on, well, multiple file systems, but the exFAT file systems, ext2, 3 and 4 are the most common ones, and we're going to use ext4 because it's the newest. So yeah, select ext4 as your file system. You've set the slider for full. Okay, so we're going to make full use of the whole partition. We're going to click add, and there we go, new partition 1, and of course we need to apply, otherwise the changes won't be applied. So we click apply, yes, apply, and I'm in VirtualBox, so this might take a few seconds. There we go, all operations completed. So let's close that, and you're going to see everything changed. Now it actually reflects the partition we've just created. So it says their partition, and it gives it a name, SDA1. It says file system ext4, size, used, unused, blah blah blah. What we really need to know is SDA1 and ext4, so we know where the files, which partition is, because both users with multiple partitions will have to take a note of the name so they don't install to the wrong one. So we'll always just take a note of SDA1 or whatever it is, and there we can see which one it is. Okay, so it's SDA1 in this case. So let's close the partition manager. Now it asks us where we want to install the grub bootloader. Now your grub bootloader is the startup menu that actually lets you choose the operating system you want to boot into. So it's very important that you install grub. Now the options are to your partition or your master boot record. Those are all no bootloader. In our case we do need one, so you can either install it to partition or to your master boot record. Master boot record is the preferred option and the recommended option, so you choose master boot record. Okay, there we go. Now it asks you which drive do you want to install to. Now when you first boot up your PC and you hit your F2 button or whatever, or your delete button, you go into the BIOS, you can set your hard drives to boot, and you can select which hard drive to boot. Now that's basically what you're seeing here. It's asking which hard drive should I put the bootloader onto. So you need to select your boot drive. Okay. In our case, we've only got one drive, which is cool, so I'm just going to select SDA. But if you have more than one drive, you need to choose the drive that you're going to boot from. Otherwise, the bootloader won't show. Makes sense, right? Okay, cool. So we're going to go ahead and just select SDA. Okay, now it pops up a partition list, and it actually lists all the partitions on the system. This is just for reference. You can close this window at any point in time if you want to. Here we're just going to double check SDA1 ext4, so yes, that's the partition we're going to install to, SDA1 ext4. Right, so let's close the window. Here it asks where do you want to install MakuluLinux to. You say SDA1, and the next screen asks you what would you like to format it to, ext4. You say OK, and now it asks you for your host name. The difficult part is now over. We've partitioned, we've selected our partitions, we've selected where to install the grub bootloader. The difficult part's over now. So now you need to choose a computer name. I'm just gonna use test PC for the time being, and click OK. And now it's gonna tell me summary. This has been done, that's been done, blah 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 blah. Hostname test PC. If you're happy, proceed with installation. Okay, so I'm gonna proceed with installation, and now you see installation will actually start. So to recap, we chose the initial scripts for location and time zone and keyboards and locals. Then we selected the type of what we want to change, which is the username and the host name. As you see, we just changed the host name. Username, it will ask that later. Then we partitioned, we selected our MBR, and here we are now. Okay, so this is going to take a while to copy, so I'm going to pause this video and I'm going to come back when the next step pops up. Files have now been copied over. It's now creating UUIDs and so forth. This will take about a minute. I am in VirtualBox after all. So just give it time to finish off with that. A lot of background copying. It will pop up. There we go. Now it will ask you enter the new login name you want to use. Now this is your actual username. Currently it's set to Makulu. If you want a different username, then type something new. Since this is just for testing purposes, I'm just gonna call it test, and then I'm gonna click OK. That will take a couple of seconds as well. Just give it a bit. It's now actually setting up your user directories and so forth. It's copying it over. There we go. Now it will ask the user's real name. Now this is the name it will display at the login window. So let's call this testing. This can contain spaces, so you can put, for example, my name's Jacques Raymer. I can write there Jacques space Raymer. That's fine. Do not put the trailing commas in. It says there without trailing commas. But in this case, I'm just going to call it testing. I'm going to click OK. Now it says, do you want to change the root password, which is recommended, so I'm going to say yes. Make sure that your passwords are good. For testing purposes, I'll just use something simple like 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then again put in 1 2 3 4 5 6. Click OK, and then it will ask would you like to change the user's password. Now remember, you've got a root password and you've got a user password. So I'm going to say yes, I want to change the user password, and I'm just going to make it the same. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Of course, they don't have to be the same. If you're very security conscious, you can create a different password for each. But you know, usually most people don't. It's actually a bad habit. But anyway, let's continue. Say yes. And now it will say Makulu installation is complete. You may now reboot into the new system. Remember to remove your installation media. You can click OK, installation complete, and if you reboot now, it will reboot into MakuluLinux. So yeah, the first thing you should run once you've booted in is, of course, if you open your menu, your start menu, you'll see you have a device driver manager. There we go, device driver manager. You should run that to set up your drivers. You should also click the little icon here to do a apt-get update your repositories. That's actually the very first thing you should run before device driver manager. So you run that and you run device driver manager to make sure that your driver's up to date, and then after that, sky's the limit. So yeah, to recap, it's very easy. Select your local, select your keyboard, select your time zone, all that stuff. When you get to gparted, create your partition table, then create the partition, click OK, select your way to install MBR, your bootloader, usually on MBR master boot record, and then go through all the processes, all the steps. You can always rewind this video and watch it all again. The installation is very easy, and I hope you enjoy MakuluLinux.